All right, welcome to Fearless Immunity webinar series. This master classes, we're doing them 6 weeks. We're on week number 4. Yeah, week number 4. Last week we talked about viruses. The week before that was cancers. The week before that was
the 5 essentials.
The 5 essentials of immunity. So we've been through a lot of different topics. Of course, those are archived, so feel free to go back so we don't have to spend a lot of, thank you, Laura. That way we don't have to spend a lot of time recapping all those. But to recap kind of what we talked about last week, it's that, when it comes to this building immunity and how you can support your immune system, I think the biggest take-home point is that you have to realize that some of it is under your control. And that's why I want you to go back and watch what we talked about, because we talked about the things that you can control. If you ever find yourself butting up against that with another doctor and they're telling you, yeah, don't worry about supporting your immune system, there's nothing you can do except for getting the flu shot and things like that, well, it's not based on any science that I'm aware of. There are absolutely things that you can do, like vitamin D, like vitamin A, vitamin C, like eliminating sugar. Anything that we talked about these last 4 weeks, everything is going to help support your immune system. And that continues with today. And this is probably one of the most underlooked aspects of our health across the board. But we wanted to spend a whole class talking about it because most of the times when we get to talk about it, we kind of take it for granted because as chiropractors, we know that this is true, but your body is a self-regulating, self-healing organism, and it needs to do that at every level of human health. Cellular level, the tissue level, the organ level, and then the body level. And if it's not doing that, symptoms are going to get worse, like pain, which is what chiropractic helps with the most and what most people think of when they think of chiropractic. But it also helps balance out the system that keeps all of those different levels in check. You've heard it called homeostasis. You've heard it called whole body balance. You've heard it called probably millions of different things over the years. But essentially, your body needs to be able to communicate on all those different levels so that it can keep your body functioning the way that it's supposed to. And the thing that's in charge of all that is the nervous system. When your body has no interference, that's when we're self-regulating, self-healing to the absolute maximum potential. And our body is designed to heal that, again, as long as we have no interference. So even when it comes to the immune system, if you get sick, if you get exposed to a virus, if you get exposed to bacteria, it is the nervous system that is ultimately in control of all of that. So today's topic is all about the nervous system. We're going to only talk about that. So if you have any specific questions, if you want us to elaborate on anything that we mentioned, feel free to ask us in the comments.
So are you going to elaborate on what exactly interference means at some point?
Okay, yeah, so let's just do that right now. Interference can mean a lot of different things, but essentially anything that stops this self-regulating and self-healing potential. Within the body, you could look at anything like a virus or a bacteria that can do that. Eating crappy food can do that. Not exercising and moving, lack of water, lack of sleep, stress. I mean, you know the examples of those types of things, but even mechanical pressure on the nervous system that causes pain can also interfere with your body's own ability to self-heal and self-regulate through the immune system. And I think that's an overlooked aspect of that. I'll get into more of that here in a second, but definitely wanted to kind of hit on, what does interference mean? Interference means anything that stops the nervous system from keeping your body in homeostasis and the immune system from operating at 100%.
So to expand on that, it's why this is not a coincidence why when a practice member comes in, say they have lower back pain, and I'll say, well, how's your digestion doing, or how's your bowel movements doing? And they say, well, now that you mention it, I've been constipated. I'm only going to the bathroom every couple days. And it's like, yeah, I could have guessed that, because the nerves in that lower part of your spine, they're either going to go to muscles or they're going to go to organs. And if there's pressure or interference there for long enough, eventually these musculoskeletal issues become organ issues, and it's all connected. And this is why we love the Merrick chart. I should have put a picture of the Merrick chart in this slide, in this PowerPoint. I didn't, but we pass them out in the office all the time. This is why our body's all connected. In the area of your body that has pressure or subluxation or interference, that's the part of your body that develops dysfunction and ultimately disease over time.
Yeah, so let's think about this big picture first when we talk about the nervous system. I always kind of joke when I say this, but in a certain sense it's true. You are your nervous system. And that may not make sense to a lot of you, but let me elaborate by saying that, I almost want to say like your soul is in your nervous system, but ultimately what I mean is like how you interact with the world, how you take in visual cues, how you hear things, how you taste things, how you smell things, how your body fights off disease, how healthy you are. The nervous system is how your brain interprets all of that information. So I always kind of joke around when I say it, but when I say you are your nervous system, think about, like, you know, we can live without a leg, we can live without a kidney, we can live without certain parts of our heart, we can live without half of our lung, we can live without parts of our pancreas, our liver. We're always doing weird surgeries like that to remove
Although we
those
want
things.
you to keep your organs.
Yeah, I'm not being a proponent of getting rid of those things because I think they're vital. But if we truly want to sum up, like, what is the most important part of your body and what therefore impacts more of your health than any other system in the body, it's the nervous system. And again, you can kind of think of it as, like, we talked a lot earlier in this series about how the environment that you put your body into is what's ultimately going to determine your health and how well you can fight these types of viruses and infections and bacteria and support your immune system. Well, that environment is interpreted through the nervous system. So in order for your body to have an appropriate response to an outside negative stimulus, the nervous system has to be firing on all cylinders. And again, the interference is just anything that stops it from doing that. So that's kind of big picture. Now I wanted to kind of zoom in and talk about how the nervous system on a biopsychological level, I don't even like biopsychology, I like more bioneurology, and meaning that the neurotransmitters, the things that affect our brain, also ultimately are going to affect how your immune system functions. So to get into it a little bit without getting too scientific on you, if we could look at overall synopsis of how the nervous system controls the immune system, this would be it, okay? That doesn't go into the specifics about different types of immune responses. It just lists a few here. Like, one of them is tumor necrosis factor, which is an immune system response to cancer inside of your body because it kills off. You remember on our cancer talk, we talked about cancer cells are essentially immortal cells that refuse to die. Well, the immune system needs to create something called tumor necrosis factor, which goes in and kills those immortal cells and fights off cancer, essentially. Another one here is interleukin. You'll hear us talk a lot about that. Interleukin is the precursors to the white blood cells inside of your body. So if you're deficient in interleukin 2, or if you're not getting a proper interleukin response to a bacteria or a virus, your immune system is not going to fight it off. So those are just two examples. There's probably hundreds of different ones.
People pay for thousands of dollars
for
injections of these interleukin 2 cells, of course in high doses, but in small doses, those are the cells that studies have shown are released with your adjustments.
But what tells those immune cells to be made and produced in the first place? Well, that's what you're looking at with this chart, is it all comes from the autonomic nervous system. That's why you don't have to, if you were to get exposed to a virus, you don't have to sit in your room thinking about, okay, I want my interleukin 2 cells to go up and I want you to kill and fight this virus. You don't have to think about it. No. It happens automatically. Yeah. And that's how important the nervous system is to this, because again, in order for you to have an appropriate response to that negative stimulus like a virus or a bacteria, the nervous system has to trigger the immune system. It doesn't happen any other way. And that's how you give yourself long-term immunity versus the short-term immunity that everybody's looking for with vaccines and medications like hydroxychloroquine, especially with this COVID scare we're having right now. So
it's not really a scare anymore.
Yeah, I think it's died down quite a bit. But things that interfere with the nervous system will absolutely ultimately also affect your nervous system. And we see this in science too. I'm not just blowing smoke. Like, this is supported in the research. So I have plenty of articles, and I'm just going to use a couple of examples to show you this, because again, we're trying to keep this to 30 minutes. So number one is stress. We know that stress, what's that? You are? Okay, well, just to show you that it affects the nervous system. Stress has a direct impact on the nervous system from your parasympathetic to your sympathetic response, like Dr. Liz will talk about. But just to give you one specific study, stress in nurses, obviously a very high stress job. And it's not just being in the hospital. Stress in nurses and soldiers actually have proven to lead to more frequent illness and sicknesses. And again, it's not just being in the hospital and, being exposed to more viruses because you're around more sick people. They compared nurses to other nurses, or nurses to doctors who are in higher stress. The higher stress you have, the more that your body is going to get sick. So that's a direct kind of correlation to show you there's nothing there's nothing that viruses like about stress. It's just that stress depletes your nervous system's ability to trigger that healthy immune response, so you get sick more often. Another one is chronic pain, and they looked at soldiers for this again, people coming back from the Iraq wars. We've had long-term studies on it now. If they're in chronic pain because of an injury, it's been shown to lead to more frequent sickness, and that's tracked through our VA system. So pain, and the reason why I'm talking about pain is because pain is kind of let's say it's a symptom, but chronic pain, especially as it relates to the spine, is going to be caused by your spine being out of alignment. So if your spine is out of alignment, it causes chronic pain, and that same thing that causes the pain is also shutting down that nervous system to immune system response. So I'm not trying to say that pain directly affects sickness and illness, but because it disrupts the nervous system so much, it stops your body's ability to have that healthy immune response. So again, you can kind of look through this on your own. It's a cascade of events that happens, and this isn't all of it. This was kind of the simplest explanation that I could find for it. So there's a lot more advanced stuff, but the reason why I like showing this is because this is basic science. Some people, like even other doctors and other chiropractors, will try to refute the fact that stress and pain have an impact on illness, but it's through the nervous system that this happens. And so there's plenty of research to back it up, but you could even just go back to your anatomy 101 class, or what's the word? Well, the other one I'm thinking of, biochemistry classes that we take as chiropractors, and this is how it happens. So you can't really refute the way the body works. So basically, to say and sum up, that the spine controls everything, even the immune system. The immune system is not just one thing, right? The immune system is all these different organs that you're seeing on this chart here. Every single one of them has some type of immune responsibility. It's not just one part of the body.
Right.
So nature needs no help. It just needs no interference. And so we're always looking for those things that are going to help it, right? Like right now, you're hearing a lot about this coronavirus vaccine, right? Dr. Liz and I, and flu shot. It's flu shot season right now too, which there's a lot of people out there rushing to get their flu shots. It's always your choice. We will never try to say that you can't do it or you shouldn't do it, but you always have to realize the difference between natural, meaning that the body will take care of it itself, and look at the flu shot as, yes, it can kind of cause that immune response, but just to kind of explain why we don't like flu shots really quickly is because it's the difference between short-term and long-term immunity. If you're injecting yourself, you're skipping so many levels of an immune response. Just to kind of keep it simple, by injecting yourself straight into the muscle with the flu shot, you're skipping bacteria on your skin, the skin itself, the mucous membranes that protect our airways and passageways. You're fighting off, you're skipping your digestive microbiome, which is the good and bad bacteria. So all of and that's just like on a simple level. You could definitely go into a lot more detail about that. But by injecting yourself with these vaccines and these flu shots, we're not building long-term immunity. You can build a short-term immunity, and antibodies with the flu shot have been shown to last anywhere from a day, meaning 24 hours, to upwards of an entire flu season, which would be 6 to 8 months. And everybody's different in how they react to that. So to say that by getting the flu shot, everybody is having the same reaction and you're building the same amount of immunity, there's just no research to support that whatsoever. So what I'd rather you do is not skip all those good levels of immune response and just expose yourself to it naturally. Let your immune system do what it's supposed to do. Now, Dr. Liz and I are not telling you that you can't get the flu shot. Just make sure you know the difference between those two. And they talk about this all the time. It's on the label when it comes to the flu shots every year.
I mean, the ingredients specifically, y'all can look up MRC5. That's the scariest ingredient that I see that are in those. So I don't know that it's.
Well, yeah, I mean, formaldehyde.
Polysorbate.
There's tons of them that we could go through, but this isn't a vaccine talk. So yeah, just the difference between short versus long-term immunity. So realize that there's a difference. So nature needs no help. It just needs no interference to do its job.
And then when did we start losing so much trust in the human body, right? Like our bodies are amazing and they were created to heal and they were created to function. And all of a sudden in today's society, we think we need all of these outside forces. Like our immune system isn't strong enough to fight off the flu. Our body isn't strong enough to overcome this ulcerative colitis that we have. And we have to go getting these colon resections, getting literally pieces of our body taken out, our gallbladder taken out, our appendix taken out, whatever, our thyroid taken out, thinking our body can't heal. And it's just baffling to me. Like from the beginning of time, our bodies have been healing. Yeah, we're hard on our bodies and we're destroying our bodies, but guess what? it can heal. Until the day we die, I cut my arm is going to heal. And it's the same no matter what is happening within your health and within your body. So we got to just restore that faith, and then our bodies are amazing.
So yeah, remove the interference, get your spine back to that normal position or as close to normal as you can. Nobody's perfect. We've been doing this for 8 years. I've yet to see a perfect spine. So you have to do everything that you can to support it. And there's just so many things daily in life that affect your spine that if it's not something you're taking care of, yes, it's absolutely going to affect your immunity sooner or later. And the only way to detect these abnormal positions is with x-rays. That's why we want you to get your friends and families checked as soon as possible. Don't ignore symptoms. If you're already having them, that's a sign that something is going on. But even if they don't have symptoms and they're just curious about what their spine looks like, I shouldn't say curious.
You should know.
You need to know what your spine looks like. It shouldn't just be out of curiosity. Yeah. The only way to reliably determine the position of your spine is with x-rays. So they need to get in the office. We have a really cool, should I tell them about that? No.
We don't have time. We're running a Operation Christmas Child special.
Yeah, kind of a charity drive. So ask the team about that next time you're here.
We'll put it in our newsletter that we're going to send out next week.
So yeah, subluxation on an x-ray, that's just the misalignments that we determine through x-ray. And again, nobody's perfect, so we don't expect your spine to be perfect, but it's not a coincidence when people come in and they're seeing all these symptoms, and then sure enough, right in the area where they're having symptoms, that's where we see the alignment problems on their x-rays. So got to have the proper alignment so that you can have proper nerve function, which allows those potentials, those signals to target to trigger the immune response, the healthy immune system. And again, that happens at every level. Your liver, your pancreas, your spleen, your digestive tract, your skin, you name it, it's all affected by it, absolutely. So cool stuff.
All right, so I just want to talk about how we actually become subluxated. And I had this conversation with a woman named Jennifer this morning, and she's like, so how long should I supposed to be coming? And I said, well, we recommend lifetime care. And she's like, really? I'm like, yeah, because we are constantly, our spine is constantly subluxating itself. And how? And that's specifically through, it's called D.D. Palmer, who is, his dad was the founder of chiropractic care.
Yeah,
D.D. was the founder of chiropractic care. So he wanted to know, like, why does this keep happening? And it was thoughts, traumas, and toxins. So stress, right, is a huge one. I'm going to talk a little bit further detail about that. Traumas, we're going to talk more about that, and we'll talk more about toxins as well. So especially in today's world, we are bombarded with stress. We are bombarded with traumas, and they're not always in the sense that you would think, and even more so bombarded with toxins. And I am really looking forward to next week focusing on toxins, because we're just surrounded, and they're in things that you might not have even ever looked at. Like a couple weeks ago, we talked about receipts and how those are full of BPA. That's a toxin. You have too much of that. Guess what? It's going to come back and subluxate your spine, causing that interference that Dr. Xavier was talking about. So as it relates to stress, how stress subluxates our spine. I mean, if we were in person, I would say, raise your hand if, when you've been getting adjusted, one of us have said, felt your neck or felt your lower back and said, wow, have you had a stressful week? And you guys are like, yeah, how'd you know? I'm like, I can feel it, right? Because it literally comes back and it causes this cortisol, the fight or flight response, which cortisol is great when we're running from a bear, because it's going to make our heart rate go up. High blood pressure, we got to get blood pumped into all of our muscles so that we can keep running from that bear. It's going to make it so we can't sleep, right? Because I don't want to sleep. I'm running from a bear. I'm running for my life right now. I don't need to think about how I need to poop, because I don't have time to stop and poop because I'm running from a bear, right? Can you guys think like, oh, wow, she's describing me. I don't sleep. I don't go to the bathroom. My blood pressure is high. Yeah, that's stress. Because your sympathetic nervous system tells your adrenal glands to release cortisol, and cortisol is your stress hormone, which Dr. Xavier talked about this in our very first workshop. In short periods of time, that's amazing that happens. But when this becomes chronic, that's when it becomes a problem. So activating your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the part of your body that allows you to relax, rest, and digest, is what your parasympathetic nervous system is nicknamed as. So your adjustments are going to help activate that. They're in your very top bone and your lower back, your sacral nerves as well. So helping that is going to help your body's stress response. So
it should be a balance too. Like you need a little bit of both.
Yeah. So when we adjust you and we activate your parasympathetic nervous system, that's why you can leave here thinking like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. Yes, because your stress response is actually in a more healthier state than when you walked in. And what's frustrating is, and I'm the same way too, when we're stressed out, you're like, I just can't fit it in. I can't get to my chiropractic appointment. Or like students that are in college and they're studying for exams, we're like, it's more important now than ever when you're stressed out to come get adjusted. And when you're studying or cramming for an exam, well, 90% of stimulation to the brain comes from movement of the spine. So you're literally going to retain more information just by getting adjusted. So that's the thoughts aspect of things. And then continuing on the thoughts aspects of things, this also drives me nuts, is when a practice member comes in and they say, oh yeah, I have this arthritis in my right knee here. And I say, whoa, what do you think caused it? And they say, well, I'm just getting old. I'm like, okay, well, how old's your other knee? Right? So your body, just because you're getting older, doesn't necessarily mean that things are going to break down. We hear all the time, and I'm sure you guys have heard too, people say, well, I feel better now than I did 10 years ago because they changed their lifestyle. So as it relates to knees, right, if things are imbalanced, there's going to be more pressure on one side versus the other. Stress and pressure over time leads to problems. So of course one is going to break down and the other isn't. So I just want to get it out of our head that, oh, I'm getting older, my health is going to deteriorate. Like that shouldn't be the norm. That's not the norm. Why can't you have the mindset of my health is great and it's going to continue to be great because I'm taking steps. I'm continuing to exercise. I'm continuing to get adjusted. I'm continuing to eat well. So I'm going to age well. Like that just makes more sense to me. But I know for a lot of people, that's a complete mindset switch. And also genetics. Can you just do like a super quick epigenetics, like genes don't determine your health? I love the way you say it.
Oh, well, there's a lot of backstory that you may not have if you haven't listened to enough of our webinars, but if you've heard me talk about DNA and epigenetics before, it's genes don't cause problems. Genes only cause problems when they're mutated or damaged, and they get damaged by the environment that you put them into. That's the only thing that changes healthy DNA to damaged DNA. That's when cancers start. That's when immune system problems start. That's when we pass it down to the next generation because they get our genetic information from us. So you actually are affecting your kids and your grandkids by not taking care of yourself and putting yourself in a healthier environment.
But here's the thing. So kids, if that's you see, well, like my dad had heart disease or my mom had cancer, so I'm at higher risk. Well, the decisions that you make are going to either turn on the good genes or they're going to turn off the bad genes. So just because you have a genetic predisposition to something, it does not mean that it's your destiny. I had that conversation with a practice member named Ken this week. He said, my dad could never sleep his whole life. He had to take medication to sleep. I have sleeping problems. Like, I don't want that to be my destiny. And I said, well, we got to figure out what's causing your body to not sleep. We got to turn off that gene that's not allowing you to sleep and turn on the good ones. And he's like, that makes sense. And for a lot of people, it gives them hope too.
Well, we've already confirmed too with research that I think we're up to 536 genetic variables can absolutely change by just making healthier choices. Something like nutrition or water intake or stopping smoking or getting adjusted can all affect those things already.
So cool. So that's the thoughts aspect of how your spine is subluxating because of stress and because of your toxic thoughts. And I want to challenge all of you to start doing some positive affirmations. So whatever it is in your mind, our brain is so stinking cool. It cannot tell the difference between what we visualize and what's reality. So if you start visualizing what you want to become your reality, guess what? Your brain doesn't know the difference, and you start like subconsciously making the choices for that to become your reality. So whatever that toxic thought is that you're telling yourself, like, oh my gosh, I can't lose weight. Oh my gosh, I'm so tired. Oh my gosh, this pain is never going to go away. Whatever it is, you need to flip that and start saying out loud, like 20 times a day. I'm not even kidding. What do you want to be your reality? Say it. Say it, say it, say it.
And to give you a cool example of that, they did a cool study with this with golfers. So if you're a golfer out there, if you're not, you'll understand this too. But they had people walk up to a ball, hit a shot, and then they had them, before they hit the next shot, they had them visualize very specifically where the ball was going to land, like how many bounces it was going to take and where it was going to end up. And when you do that visualization process before every shot, you get much more accurate, you get better golf shots. So the brain has a big effect on not only how you're body perceives its environment, but how your body performs in reaction to that
Yeah,
environment.
and that's just something as simple as golf. Think about really the cool things that can happen too. Okay, so now in the physical aspect of things, traumas. So even, of course, there's the traditional sense of traumas, car accidents, bad slips and falls. Like when people think of a physical trauma, they think of these drastic things. Well, there's also micro traumas. So micro trauma can be sitting. Like we were never, let me see if I can do it. No, this way. We were never meant to sit like this, right? Every single day of our lives. What am I doing to my neck when I'm sitting that way? What am I doing to my lower back? I'm literally telling them to go the opposite direction. And of course, your muscles and your ligaments are going to adapt to having that kind of pressure on it. And guess what? That's a micro trauma. And I'm telling you what, the more people we see in their 50s and 60s that have had desk jobs their entire lives, they have degeneration in their spine. That degeneration not only affects their pain levels, but when you have degeneration, it affects the organs and it affects your overall health. It affects everything when your spine has that degeneration. And now the corporate world is completely going to standing desks. The practice members now that we have in their upper 20s that are getting their, their first jobs, they say, oh, I have a standing desk. And it's like, cool, because the other generation before that is so messed up because of it. So getting that, switching over to that standing desk is huge. If you are sitting, sit on your wobble cushion. That's huge. Making sure that your computer screen is eye level. I sent out at the beginning of, let's just say in March, I texted out a video of how you can change your at-home work ergonomics. So you can ask Dr. Xavier or I about that at your next adjustment. Ideally, 60% of your day would be standing and 40% would be sitting. But then make sure if you are standing, if you have a hip cocked over to the, if you got that hip hop going on.
Leg crossers.
Yeah, you have to, well, this is if we're standing. And then you have to make sure that you pop to the other side. Like you always have to even things out. And yes, leg crossers. If you're sitting, you have to cross your legs to both sides because otherwise you're creating an imbalance. And I'm not saying not to pop your hip. I'm not saying not to carry a purse over one shoulder. I'm not saying not to cross your legs. I'm just saying let's always think about evening things out. And once you get into the habit of things, it's not hard. It's going to require constantly reminding yourself for the first little bit, and then it's what becomes natural.
So then I want to compare the chronic stress of sitting all day long. Like if you get into a car accident and your spine gets out of place, of course that's not good for you, but is that going to have as big of an impact as every single day for 40 hours a week we're sitting in a position that's chronically irritating our nervous system, therefore affecting our immune system? Like that probably is going to have a bigger impact on your overall health than even a car accident, even severe car accidents, because your body can handle an acute pressure and an acute stress like that and heal from it. It's a lot harder to heal from it if we're just re-exacerbating it and making it worse day in and day out and compounds. So,
I will tell you one of the biggest consistencies I see with our practice members who don't get great changes on their x-rays, because that's what we do. We want to improve your x-rays to your spinal health, is people who have these repetitive postures like Dr. Xavier saying that they do every single day and they don't change them. People who drive at work and they lean on their console, you're going to develop a curve in your lower back. So you have to be thinking about those things. Those are called micro traumas, and they are subluxating your spine and they're affecting your health, simply put. Okay. Okay. And then we go into toxins. Now we're going to talk all about toxins next week. So I know I'm a fast talker. I'm going to talk even faster. Okay. So ladies, I want you to think about what you're putting on your skin and what you're putting on your body every single day. The lotions that you use. You know what? Why don't you switch and just use coconut oil? There's nothing toxic in that. There's one ingredient. It's coconut oil. It's beneficial for your skin. It's extremely moisturizing. Stop using the toxic lotions. It's not hard. The cosmetics that you're using, just make sure that you're getting a less toxic brand. I can help you find some of those less toxic brands. But what's scary is they contain phthalates. They contain triethanolamine. They contain polyethylene glycols and parabens. So there's an app that you can download. There's EWG Skin Deep, or you can download an app called Think Dirty, and it'll rate your personal products in terms of how toxic they are versus not toxic. So Dr. Xavier is going to type what those are. But if you're using super toxic products, you're going to want to switch over to brands that aren't as toxic, because it's not only, it's disrupting your hormones, right? So our hormone issues can oftentimes come back to our personal care products, and so many of our issues, ladies, are related to hormones. It increases your risk of cancer. It increases cognitive decline, just by the things that I need to display it, just by the things that we are putting onto our bodies every single day. So that might be your next step. I'm hoping as you guys are listening to these workshops, you're thinking, what's my next step? What's my next step? What's my next step? And hopefully doing your home care is one. Hopefully, food should always be, that's something that we always need to work on. We're going to fall off the boat, you get back on the boat. But switching over cleaning products, that's like you do it once and you're done, right? You just need to switch it over. You switch over your makeup and you're done. So it might be overwhelming at first, but long-term, it's actually one of the easier essentials of our 5 essentials to actually implement. And then household cleaners. So we talked a lot about cleaners last week. Formaldehyde, bleach, diethanolamine, they're linked to allergies, cancer, asthma, reproductive issues. Young ladies, this is huge.
Men's prostate, that's another big one.
Yeah, prostate. They're neurotoxins, they're excitotoxins in your brain. So brain cancers. I'm having some anxiety about putting James in a mom's day out program, because I know they're cleaning with Clorox. But anyways, it's not that we're never going to be exposed to these things, and we do need to trust it doesn't rule our life, right? I know some people, and I think it's great that they do this, good for them, but they, bring their own soaps everywhere. They bring their own sheets everywhere. And I know that I'm going to be exposed to these things, and I trust that my skin and my liver and my nervous system can process all of these things. So it's not that we're never getting exposed. We don't let it give us anxiety, because we do have faith in our body, but you want to minimize this exposure as much as you can.
But going back to the topic that we're talking about here, the reason why these ones we're talking about today are because they have been shown to have a direct impact on the nervous system.
Yeah.
And then inherently, because they damage the nervous system, they affect your body's ability to trigger those immune responses. So to kind of put it all together, like, we're not just talking about toxins here. These are specifically the ones that disrupt normal nervous system activity. Yeah.
So having your exposure to these cleaners, which you should just switch to using Norwex or vinegar or doTERRA or Young Living or whatever, they are absorbed into your skin as you breathe them in, and they will go back to your spine and they will cause subluxation in your spine, right? So that's what we're talking about. How does this thoughts, traumas, toxins, stress subluxates your spine? Trauma, of course, that's an easy one to understand, but these toxins, they subluxate your spine too. And that's why lifetime chiropractic care is absolutely crucial for overall health, is because we are constantly subluxating ourselves. And even if the only thing that you're doing for the rest of your life is getting adjusted, well, your immune system is going to function, I think it's like a couple 100% better. They did a study on chiropractic patients who've been adjusted regularly over a 5-year period, and it showed that their nervous system, their immune system functioned 300% better than someone who wasn't.
I think they're 65% less likely to get sick or something.
Yeah, it's just crucial for your health. So next week we'll talk further about this. Want you to do your wobble exercises, and the patients who do these, their exercises faithfully, they're like, wow, I really do feel so much better when I do this. Well, yeah, we give them to you for a reason. So this is just a great way to bring nutrition to your discs, to get some movement within your spine, especially if you're sitting all day. It improves core stability, it improves your balance. So this can just kind of combat the sitting that we do. So it's just a huge, this little tool is something that can make a big difference as well. Okay, so this is an awesome supplement that we have. You guys can ask us about it in the office. We don't want to take up too much time. But ultimately, this is the difference between medicine and chiropractic. So medicine is disease, right? So medical school and chiropractic school, the first 3 years they're the same, right? Our core classes are the same, but then at some point, medical school, they break off and they learn about medications and how medications can treat disease and how they react in the body, versus chiropractic goes further into, of course, adjusting, but also even further into physiology and how the body works. So chiropractic is about life and what causes people to live, and restoring faith that our body was created to function and heal, as long as there's no interference on our nervous system. So I love that quote from BJ Palmer. Okay, so that's all we have for you guys today. Next week we'll be talking about toxins, and I'm real excited for that. So.
Be good one.
Okay, all right, y'all have a great weekend.